When most people start to feel motivated, they probably feel pretty good about it. But for those of us who have bipolar disorder, when we start to feel motivated, we have to ask ourselves, am I really motivated or am I starting to get manic? So that's what I'm talking about in today's video, the connection between goal setting and bipolar mania and how to crush your goals without spiraling into a manic episode. So let's get into it. I'm Patty. I have bipolar disorder and ADHD. I make videos to share my blue energy and to educate people about mental health. When I first started working on this video, I intended it to be about bipolar disorder and extreme goal setting because there is a lot of interesting science on this. In fact, there are a lot of interesting people who have bipolar disorder. If you look at the celebrity world and the business world, you can probably think of a few really successful people who also have bipolar disorder. So that was what I originally wanted to talk about in this video. But as I was making this video, I set a really big goal for myself for this channel, that I was going to start making one video a week. Well, needless to say, I didn't meet my goal. And I got in this really bad mood and I almost got depressed about it. And in fact, my last video I made about bipolar disorder and chronic pain ironically gave me a migraine. So after I didn't crush my own goal, that nobody really cares about. I know that I've got some subscribers here, but none of you are losing sleep over whether or not Patty makes a new video. But I felt extremely angry, irritable, and then I felt really depressed. And I started really looking at the type of content I want to create for this channel. And I want to create content that helps us, that helps me. And for me, goal setting is a big part of my disorder. So I've changed gears on this subject, and I'm going to get into why goal setting affects our bipolar disorder and how to manage your goals so that you can have goals, achieve goals without it completely disrupting your well-being. Let's talk about what makes us so driven to succeed at our goals. It has to do with how our brains are wired, and it often starts to develop early in life. People with bipolar disorder are often high achievers early on. Some researchers think academic success in school could even be a predictor of bipolar disorder. A study conducted in Sweden looked at academic data from 700,000 adults and found that those who had high grades in school were 4 times more likely to develop bipolar disorder in adulthood. This study, as well as some others, suggest a potential connection between bipolar disorder and a specific type of motivation called approach motivation. Approach motivation is another word for goal-oriented motivation, and generally means we like to work for positive rewards. In general, humans tend to approach positive experiences and avoid negative ones. This is what makes us take action towards something good, like eating or having sex, and keeps us from doing things that are painful or risky, like touching a hot stove. However, people with bipolar disorder tend to have an imbalance with our approach and avoidance motivation. This is what makes us fearless risk takers. Our fearlessness can sometimes help us to achieve our goals, but it can also cause us to make bad decisions since our avoidance motivation isn't as strong as our approach motivation. This is all because of 2 systems in our brain called the behavioral activation system and the behavioral inhibition system. These 2 systems regulate our motivation. The behavioral activation system is responsible for getting us moving or taking an action. The behavioral inhibition system is responsible for telling us to not take an action or watch out. These 2 systems work together like the little angel and devil on your shoulders, telling you whether you should do it or don't do it. Researchers think our attraction to goal setting and achieving extreme goals is due to our response to these 2 systems. Our behavioral activation system, which responds to goal-related rewards, seems to be hyperactive, while our inhibition system, which responds to negative consequences, is not. Because of this, we may get easily stimulated to take an action, but we don't seem to get the message from our behavioral inhibition system to not take an action. This is why we go into a goal head on without worrying about the possible negative outcomes of our decisions. Our brain's behavioral activation system tells us, take an action, take an action, take an action. You can do it, baby. Bipolar people are much more motivated by approach motivation rather than avoidance motivation. We're driven by positive rewards rather than fearing negative consequences. This is why we may work for something we want, but you won't motivate us to stop doing something based on a negative consequence. We also prefer extrinsic goals like fame and money over intrinsic goals like inner peace, emotional stability, or better relationships. This is partly because our brain doesn't receive as much of a pleasure response from intrinsic goals. It's important to understand this if you have bipolar disorder because our response to goal setting can trigger a manic episode. For us, motivation and mania tend to go together. When we're manic, we're more motivated, and when we're more motivated, it can make us manic. Now that you know a little bit more about why we are wired for goal setting, let's talk about things to watch out for if you have bipolar disorder. Goals are awesome, and I love achieving my goals, but there are some things you need to work into your game plan if you want to achieve a goal without completely spiraling into a manic episode. Our behavioral activation system gives us the inertia and energy to work on a goal, but it does more than that. It also affects our physical activity and not just our mental motivation. Researchers have detected this by using actigraphy monitoring. When our behavioral activation system kicks in, this increases our motor activity. This increased motor activity is a major prodromal symptom of bipolar mania. What this means for us is that just thinking about an idea or a goal we want to achieve may trigger a response in our brains leading to physical symptoms, including more motor activity or disruption of our sleep, which can lead to a manic episode. Another common issue for people with bipolar disorder is that we become fixated on a goal, even when it no longer makes sense or benefits us. Once we've experienced some form of reward from pursuing a goal, we can become trapped in the need to keep pursuing it, even if it no longer brings rewards. Our brain gets locked onto that goal like a traffic light stuck on green, and we might stick with it even when we haven't had any success or the original reward from it has long passed. Like most people, we feel better when we are motivated and productive. It's unfortunately difficult for us to determine whether we are motivated or beginning a manic episode. When we feel motivated or manic, we can overcommit to things. Eventually, our energy runs low and we can't keep up. This leads to stress, physical symptoms, burnout, and depression. So, if you want to work on a new goal, make sure to lighten your workload before you start working on it. Ease into things by budgeting the time to take on something new. Don't add more to your load just because you feel motivated. The more often we repeat our goal-related patterns, the more we reinforce the neural pathways that reward our brain with dopamine for accomplishing our goals. To change how we are wired, we can use mindfulness practices to reprogram our minds to seek inner peace and emotional stability as a goal, instead of just reward-driven goals. We can prioritize self-care, stronger relationships, and better moods over extreme goals, extreme pressure, and extreme expectations. Now for some tips on crushing your goals if you have bipolar disorder. My first tip is to keep your manic goals to yourself. Now, your goals may not be manic, but when you have a lot of goals and set goals frequently, what I used to do was I used to shout them from the rooftops. I thought that this gave me more accountability, plus it put my intentions out to the universe. But what it also does is it puts a lot of pressure on you, and Your friends and family who've watched you set one goal after another may not give you the support you want. They may think, oh, this is just another crazy manic idea. And secondly, when you get known for having bipolar disorder, if you have a big goal, your friends might take advantage of you. Let me help you with your new manic goal. Let me spend your money helping you achieve your newest, greatest, exciting goal. So I suggest keeping your goals to yourself or just talking to your close friends, really close friends who are going to support you. My next tip is to sleep on it. If you have a new idea or a new goal you want to do, a lot of times you'll wake up with this motivation, want to get started right now. Sleep on it. Take a little time. It doesn't have to start today. Sleep on it and give yourself some time to process it. But just the sleeping for a day or two will help you think things through. The next tip is to save for it. If you want to do something that requires money, like take a big trip or join a new gym to get in shape, take some time to save up for it. Don't just spend this money, especially if it's a lot of money and you want to start a new business or invest in something. Save for it. Don't spend it unless you actually have the money. And that process of saving for it will help you to think through your goal and make time to plan for it and make sure this is actually a good goal. The next tip I have is to intentionally slow things down. We like to go, go, go. And when we want to get a goal done, we want to crush it as fast as we can, as hard as we can. I intentionally slow down my goals. So whatever my goal is, I tend to set my time frame 3 times longer than what I think it should be, because I don't estimate time, or I make my goals based on my manic energy instead of my normal energy. So for me, I set my timelines 3 times longer than what I think they should be to give myself a little more time. For example, I would like to make 1 YouTube video a week for this channel, but I've set a goal to get at least 1 done a month. And if I get more done, that's great, but this eliminates the pressure and the crazy drive to get stuff done when I don't have enough time to do it. Another thing I do to help me crush my goals and stay stable is I create my own stoplights. Like I've mentioned, we don't have them. We don't have stoplights internally, so we have to create them. So for me, I have a stopping point every day, no matter what. I use alarms to tell me, you're done, go cook dinner. I create my own stoplights so that I stay stable. Now, my biggest tip and what I've been doing the most of is practicing mindfulness. I have changed how I approach goal setting because I am very aware of how it affects my mental health, and I'm trying to break the patterns and change the neuroplasticity in my brain so that I'm not repeating these patterns that fuel my bipolar mania and depression cycles. So what I am prioritizing as my goal for me and my life is mental stability, better, stronger relationships, and happiness and joy in my life. So if I don't get my goals done, I'm not getting pissed off and in a rage because I didn't get my goals done and making everyone around me and in my life miserable. So I'm practicing mindfulness and breaking some patterns in my life, and being more flexible with my goal setting is one of them. Thank you guys for listening to my videos. I appreciate all the feedback I've gotten from all of you, especially those of you guys who are leaving me tips on how to grow this channel. I appreciate you so much. If you support what I'm trying to do with this channel, please help me out by subscribing to this channel or leaving me a comment, because that helps me get my videos into the algorithm. And I really, really appreciate you guys who've subscribed over the last week and who keep giving me tips on, how to improve this channel. I really appreciate your help and support with this. Thanks, guys. I'll see you again soon.